first at health facilities in the hotspot and then at other facilities nationwide. It's important to also provide a second line of protection for frontline medics, which includes some insurance arrangements that have been made for them. Minister Atumamenu, please join me with your brief.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is a privilege for me to update the nation of where we are with the battle that we have on our hands. I'll first start with the update on the statistics that we have on the work that we are doing. As at the time that we just started this briefing, Ghana has confirmed a total 152 positive cases of coronavirus in our country. If we split this into two, we have the confirmed cases from routine surveillance. We started picking people before quarantine. And that group, we have now tested 63 positive cases. We still have 5 deaths. The travelers that came in last weekend that we quarantined, it's 130. We have completed all necessary tests, and we now have 79 of them tested positive. All of them have been given access to psychologists. They have been counseled, and they have been taken to care center that we have at the moment. We now have created a quarantine center at Tamale, and this afternoon we have put in 10 tested positive cases. All these 10 in Tamale are foreign nationals. None of them is a Ghanaian yet. The information we have from the case management people is the fact that all those tested positive are in very good condition. They are not sick yet, but they have started engaging them for treatment. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, there's the need for me as a health minister to talk to our health workers. Already, we have actually distributed protective cover to a very large extent to all the regions in our country. Over the last few days, we have continuously been providing protective cover to the regions where we are now trying to cut off from the rest of the country. So Kumasi, Greater Accra and Tema, we are adding on protective covers that we have already distributed to enable our health workers work very well. For the last few weeks, we have received close to about 30,000 PPEs that we are distributing. And I want to make an appeal to all health workers that if you don't have protective cover, please first contact your regional directorate as quickly as possible. We are still distributing, and we'll make sure that's to where you are as quickly as possible. The president has added on a team of military logistics people who are helping with the distribution of these PPEs. So if you are very far away, like last week, we had to fly military helicopters to distribute some of these PPEs to the far northwest and to the far east. We are also deploying the facility, the drones, to start flying some of the samples, and therefore our distribution networks seriously triggered with the support of the military. We believe that we can reach everybody as quickly as we have to. Apart from these protective equipment, government has instructed, and between Finance, Minister of Finance and Minister of Health, we have actually signed on to a health insurance policy that is going to give insurance cover to our frontline health workers. The other stage, we have arranged to take a policy for 10,000 frontline health workers to cover life, to cover illness, and to cover temporary disability. Details of these have been given to various heads of health providers. And when I say health providers in our country, I mean Ghana Health Service, that is the largest public health provider, the Christian Health Associations of Ghana, in addition to the Islamic faith. So we call them the FBOs, faith-based organizations. We also have the private sector organizations. We also have the security health facilities, military and the police, the prisons. Then we have the quasi-government institutions. We are deploying health workers from all these institutions based on their expertise. And we are adding on even some volunteers to do some aspects of the work that later Dr. Nsiensar will talk about. Initially, we are doing for 10,000, and going forward, the need arises. We will add on numbers to cover almost everybody who is part of the frontline brigade. We've got to a stage where we need to pay some allowances to frontline workers who we will deploy, from security to health, to others who are supporting them. We have done some initial simulations, and again details of the allowances that is going to be paid will pass on to heads of your employers, and they will announce on your various platforms for your information. I want to assure the nation that the President and government have done a lot, and we believe we will not be so overwhelmed with the COVID-19, as we are seeing in other countries. We have the assurance and the full support of our President, and is so committed to support the health sector and the security agencies to fight this battle. I thank you so much.
Honorable Minister, thank you for those remarks. And we will come back to you later during the question and answer segment. A few nuances that we'll have to share at this point following the Honorable Minister's presentation. We want to encourage citizens that, as has been advertised, as much as possible, we want to limit immediate visits to health facilities for persons who have symptoms and feel that they should be tested. We want to limit your immediate visit or rushing into health facilities. And that is why we are admonishing that if you are exhibiting symptoms, first, call the hotline 112. That's a non-emergency hotline 112, which has now been availed for this purpose. Initially, there were a number of phone numbers that were given out. We have instructed that the national emergency number 112 be activated for this purpose. We have seen lots of calls coming through, a good number of them being prank calls. We have instructed that persons who make prank calls, and they determine that by the number of times you call without any substantive matter to make, those persons will be blocked so that we can create space for those who have real challenges. What it means is that if you make prank calls onto the 112 number and you are blocked, if indeed you have a challenge, you will not get through. So we encourage all citizens, we encourage our colleagues in the media, now is not the time to be calling to test whether that line works or not. Because as you do that, you deny real persons opportunity. But first, call that hotline 112 so that they can dispatch a team to come and attend to you. The number of calls they are getting are a lot, so sometimes second, as the Honorable Minister mentioned, PPE materials are distributed across the country. We are also calling on the heads of facilities to ensure that the internal distribution is not just limited to the isolation units. There are reports from some of the medical facilities that it appears that only the isolation units are receiving PPEs, but OPDs and emergency units, which could also receive persons coming in, are not exactly getting it. So we are humbly asking the heads of facilities to ensure that internal distribution is expanded to include OPDs and emergency units as well. We have also recorded incidents where persons who eventually test positive initially withhold relevant information from doctors and nurses. Take note, it is very unhelpful to the cause. It puts our health workers at unnecessary risk. We have instances where now about 14 or 15 health workers now have to be put in self-isolation. What that means is that they are first of all at risk, and secondly, you are reducing the number of health workers that we have to attend to cases that may come. So please, you have no reason or no basis to withhold relevant information such as your travel history, etc., which will be necessary for them to also ensure that they are well protected, and then even your care is activated as quickly as possible. Later, I'll give some more nuance on those who are responding to treatment, because it's important we let people know that this is not like something that when you get, then the next day you are dead. For which reason we believe some persons may be withholding information. So give some nuances on those responding to treatment. Now, His Excellency the President has announced restrictions in parts of the country, in Accra and Kumasi, in Greater Accra and Greater Kumasi. These restrictions, will get into the details shortly, exemptions and enforcement. But it's not just a set of restrictions. The restrictions are also to enable us scale up. The restrictions are supposed to enable us scale up testing in these areas. The Ghana Health Service has a unit that is focusing on testing. I want to invite the persons in charge of that. Is Kezia here? To outline the various parts of this first exercise, the contact tracing, because these persons are to be tested, as we mentioned. Those who've been invited through the contact tracing, they are to be tested. They also have what they call the at-risk populations, and then some more active surveillance. I want to invite Kezia. Kezia, forgive me, I have your surname. She would introduce herself fully to us, and then she would explain to us what they are doing in this space of contact tracing, identifying the at-risk population, and then some more active surveillance. So that during this set of restrictions, not just restrictions, but it's restrictions, among other things, to facilitate enhanced testing, which starts from all of these persons that's putting in this pool. Kezia, please introduce yourself fully and then outline it for us.
Thank you very much and good afternoon. I'm Dr. Kezia Malm. I'm currently working with a team that is following the cases and making sure that we make the spread as limited as possible. So currently what we do for contact tracing is to be able to identify the people and the places the case has been in contact with 4 days prior to symptoms showing, and follow all these people for 14 days. If anybody starts developing any symptoms, we go test, and if it's positive, then that person becomes a case, and we also start contact tracing around the person. What we do is to tell the people who have been in contact with the case to self-quarantine themselves. And in terms of following the contact, we have two options. We have the self-check, and the other check where the health workers come to your house and check every day to see whether you have symptoms like fever, cough, sore throat, any of the symptoms that we identified as being expressed by cases of COVID-19. So we will continue doing these things in the areas that there will be restrictions, but in addition, there will be enhanced surveillance. So what we'll do is that in the areas where we've identified that as hotspots, in the houses where cases are, we will zone a certain area around the house, depending on the person's occupation, the kind of interaction they've had, the number of cases, and the lifestyle in the community. And then visit these households, one, to take information about the people, list them, so that subsequently we need to do something, it's easier. Two, screen in terms of the symptom diary, and then the last will be to test them. We are doing this to be able to catch the cases early and treat, and also reduce the chances of the cases being spread to other people. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mao, for that update on how they are doing the contact tracing. This is how they may I say, scoping the net of persons who need to be tested as a first step. And she's also spoken about the enhanced surveillance or the active surveillance. Now, initially the view was to observe, and when people have symptoms, then they proceed to test. Following the imposition of restrictions and the decision to enhance our response, His Excellency the President has now given some instructions on the advice of the experts and technocrats on how far we should go with testing. Dr. Nsiansari is the advisor on health to the Office of the President. He is leading that charge on testing under the instructions of the Honorable Minister. I want to invite him for him to speak to what is our testing, what is the measure of success by the time we are done with this 2-week period. Because if I understand properly now, the idea is not to follow the virus, but to get ahead of it so that we can ensure it doesn't spread any further. Doc, please join us.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister of Health, Honorable Minister of Information, Deputy Minister of Information, stand the existing protocols. What I will say is that His Excellency the President has come off strategic plan. If you realize there are 5-point strategic plan that he came out with in his last broadcast. One of them we've done successfully, that's limit and stop importation of cases. That's why all our border towns and then the airport has been closed. The next thing is we want to detect and contain the cases. That's where what Kezia talked about, contact tracing and also testing. If you want to contain the cases, most of all the cases were imported here. But now we have horizontal local transmission. So we want to contain it so that it doesn't go anywhere else. That's the reason why we feel that how to go is test, 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 test. And that's what the WHO insists we should all be doing. We've also realized that most countries who did that have been successful. They've contained the disease. Examples are Singapore, South Korea, Japan have done, and that's how they've succeeded. And if you realize, so yesterday those who watch BBC and Sky News, UK is doing it. In fact, they are testing everybody in his car. They are standing at junctions, and when you read there, they talk to you, take your particulars, and test you, and take the samples for testing. They say in Germany last week, tested 500,000 people within a week. We don't have that resources to test so number of people. So we're going to work together with the contact tracing, and now we will not wait until you develop symptoms before we test you. Immediately we come to the household, and then we know that there's a positive patient there. In fact, what we are saying is that we'll test everybody in that household. And if you tell us that there are people in the locality or people that we have contacted with, we also don't say lockdown, but restricted movement. We want to take advantage and test all of them. The virus doesn't move. There's no legs. It's the human beings who move the virus. So we want to stop the human beings from moving to the virus. The reason why His Excellency the President said, if you have nothing to do, don't move out of your bedroom or your house, because you will meet the virus on the way. So we are going to test and test and test. And then when we test, then we will know those who are negative. In fact, those who are negative, we will advise them what to do. When somebody is positive, it's even that the person understands what is wrong of a person even more than somebody who is negative. And who are positive, there are ways that will manage you. When the contact tracing people come, they will take the profile of everybody First, they will take your past medical history if you have any underlying disease. They will look at the place that you are living, if you have a conducive atmosphere, so that if, in case you become positive or negative, you can stay in your locality or in your house. And then they will look at how you are also, your state of living in that place. So these are the three criteria that we shall use. So you can be a positive person, and then you have a place to live, and then we'll advise you, and then you do self-quarantine or self-isolation and treatment. And somebody will come and follow you up. Or you positive, but you may not even have symptoms, but you have underlying issues that will take control over you and go and manage you at a center so that you don't have any problems. Or you will be positive, but you can, or you negative or positive, but not manage yourself. They will think about where to go and keep you for the 14 days to pass. The idea is that if you are negative, within the incubation period, which is about 2 to 14 days, you can either develop the disease because you are now incubating it, or you can become positive because you've been infected by somebody else. If you are negative, it doesn't mean that it has given you a clean slate that you can go where that you like. So what you want to do is that we want to make sure that everybody, especially in the locked down areas or the restricted areas, will be tested. And we are now working on figures. By this evening, we know the number of people that we will target to test. We have our testing centers at Kumasi and in Accra at Noguchi. We are also trying to bring on board other testing centers in Tamale, also in Kolebu, where we have the public health lab, and also in Ho and Hohoi. We have at the moment we can count about PCR machines. We are using PCR for the time, but as you move on, we will do a lot of surveillance in the community and try to find the prevalence. And we are working on also rapid testing that in the long run will also be adding to it. There's a policy document which is being written, and when we get the policy ready, we will test. So the whole policy directive of the government is you test. But I want to warn everybody that when we start testing a lot of people, you will realize that the figures of positive will likely go up. It will reach a peak, but the most important thing to check that we have done very well is it will then fall very rapidly. So if you see that tomorrow we are testing on Monday and then the figures have another 10, 20 have been added, there's no cause for alarm. It means we are doing our work very well. If you are not very careful, I remember one country that the minister was asked, it looked as if you are the only African country without any positive case. He said, yes, we don't have any positive case. They say, why? Because we don't test. We don't have money to buy any test kit. So you can't say that he is negative because he's doing well. No. So please, we'll be coming to your homes, be with us, join us, and make sure that we put these minutes to the back. If you don't assist us and give out names and addresses and telephone numbers of people that somebody has come in contact with who is positive, we will not find the people. We want to be safe in this country. We want to make sure that everybody who is potential positive will be tested. And as the Honorable Minister for Information said, don't get up when people are calling, we want to go and test. Luckily, those of you in Accra or Greater Accra Metropolis and Greater Kumasi Metropolis, we will have the advantage of being tested. And the contact tracing and the surveillance team will also be working in all the other cities and municipalities and other regions that are not under the restriction. Because we have people who have been trained to do that, and we continue also testing them in those places. So this is how we're going to do it. And from tomorrow, we'll be on the field testing. And we'll be testing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nsiasari. He is advisor to the President on health, and now on the instructions of the Minister responsible for health, he's leading the testing charge. Because I've mentioned, testing is one of the major things that we have an opportunity to do during this restricted period, in the restricted areas, but not just limited to the restricted areas. The teams that are also being deployed have a national dimension. Some other parts of the country that we will speak to when we talk of enforcement. And we also need the help of citizens to find some of our colleagues who, because of contact tracing, we know they are not necessarily in Accra or Kumasi, but they are in other parts of the country, and who also in the last 24 hours have also left Accra and are coming to other parts of the country. There are teams in other parts of the country that can assist with that. So just to put it together, as Dr. Malm said, they have a pool of contacts who have already traced, the primary contacts who have been traced, who are going to be tested under the new protocols. Apart from that, out of who are returned into the country from a particular date, narrowed down to the risk areas, about 14 flights of risk areas, nearly some 3,000 people. They are also being put into a second, may I say, bracket of persons. And then, as has been mentioned, an active surveillance. People within these hotspots who may show or not show symptoms but have come into contact with any of these two persons who are also going to be tested. So that's an aggressive testing program that's going to be rolled out. By close of night, they'll have some specific numbers who help us measure our success by the end of this 14-day period. Now, a critical point he made, which I want to reiterate, is that the more we test, the more we'll know the real numbers. And so as we test some more, the numbers will go up. And we encourage citizens and our colleagues in the media, don't be too worried when you see numbers going up. There are 2 or 3 important things that we're able to provide them with care so that they do not pass away. And then the second thing is that all of us who are maybe also not testing positive have an opportunity to protect ourselves so that we don't test positive. Now that brings me to the subject of care for the sick. The Ghana Health Service is leading charge and is ensuring that we have infrastructure, logistics, personnel, care for the sick. I want to call Dr. Abwaje to join me and give us a little brief on it. But just as he starts, so for example, in the mandatory quarantine exercise here in Accra, 79 cases, we are told 79 of them are responding to treatment. In the routine surveillance of 63, 2 we are told have recovered. That means that after supportive treatment, they've been tested and now they are proving negative. That means to say recovered. So that's why we don't rush to say that everybody is. We want to test for them to be negative. But 56 are responding to treatment and 5 have passed on. And then in the Tamale incident, 10 persons, they are not sick at this point in time. Now, let me give some brief about the Tamale incident and then Dr. Abwache can join. The regional security brief from the northern region, Tamale specific, is that these persons, as part of the enhanced surveillance, were brought to attention of the regional security and health team, the joint team that was working. And 11 days ago, they were put into quarantine 11 days ago, or they were put into self-isolation. It wasn't a proper quarantine facility like mandatory quarantine as we had at the time. They were asked to self-isolate 11 days ago and then were tested. The test results came in this morning around 10 o'clock. The information I have is the Ghanaian and other West African authorities completing arrangements so that they can be repatriated to their countries of origin for treatment to take place there. So they will not be treated within a jurisdiction. They will be repatriated to their countries of origin. But they have been in self-isolation, I think the proper expression, self-isolation, for the last 11 days since they came into the jurisdiction. They came in before the borders were closed, just so that there's clarity on that one. Dr. Abwaje, care for the sick. And please use my sanitizer when come. Dr. Siasa, you didn't use it, so I'll send it to you. Minister, did you use it? I will send it to you.
Thank you. The sanitizer is before and after, right? Okay. Good afternoon. Honorable Minister for Health, Minister for Information, Deputy Minister of Information, ladies and gentlemen, Head of Public Services and Chair of the Public Service Commission, good afternoon. I'm sure that a lot has been said about figures that I will not repeat. But Ghana Health Service, as you know, is central to our response to COVID-19. We are undertaking case detection that has been mentioned, containment, and most importantly, treatment. This morning, we have a total of 61 cases being managed at various treatment centers across the country. And below are the details I want you to know. Greater Accra region has 4, that's Ridge Hospital. 37 Hospital has 1. Kumasi South is also managing 1. Konfanochi is managing 1, and Obuasi is managing 1. Wa Hospital is also managing 1. I'll give you further details of the rest of the people, especially the Gan East, where we have the significant number there. All the rest are in the Gan East Hospital. Cases who tested positive and are assessed as being mild cases and have conditions, whose conditions are good for self-management and are being discharged to also allow for management. This is to tell you that it's not such a serious condition if you come early. Currently, about 14 cases are receiving treatment at home. 31 of the cases are under observation, which means that they are at home, but they are not started treatment because they do not have symptoms. Ladies and gentlemen, all regions have identified treatment or isolation centers for case management. And for the exercise of what we are going to do tomorrow, I want to put it out and let you know where, in every region where we have beds, where these things can take place. When you go to Western region, we have a Fiankwanta Regional Hospital, Takoradi Hospital, Axim, Takwa Municipal Hospital, Father Thomas Allen Hospital, Christia, Hafasini, and Ekwe Hospital. These are all facilities that have beds and are ready to isolate and manage. Western North, we have Enchi Government Hospital, ACM Government Hospital, BBNE Hospital also are ready to receive cases. Seviyo also Municipal Hospital and Suaman Hospital, these are for Western North. When it comes to Central Region, we have Trauma Specialist Center at Winneba, which has isolated area for treatment. The Cape Coast Teaching Hospital is part. The Jalco Hospital has beds for the treatment, and Dunkwa, Onofin, these are the 4 facilities in Central Region where cases can send to. Greater Accra, we have Greater Accra Regional Hospital, Tema General Hospital, the Gan East Hospital, and 7 Military Hospital. There are 2 additional ones we'll talk to later. Eastern Region currently has Eastern Regional Hospital alone. That's where the other facilities are being renovated, and as soon as they are ready, that's Tekwashi, B and Kibi, once they are ready, they will be added to the list. Volta Region has the whole teaching hospital, K2 Municipal Hospital, Rara District Hospital, Hoho Municipal Hospital, the Nkwanta South Municipal Hospital. These are places where in Volta Region you can also seek care. In the Bono region, we have Brekum Holy Family and the Wenchi Methodist Hospital where cases can be managed. Anti region has 2 facilities, Konfanoshi Teaching Hospital, 3, Kumasi South and the KNUSC Hospital where they are also managing cases. When it comes to Bono East, we have Kintampo North, the Chiman Holy Family Hospital are the 2 places where they are being managed. Ahafo region has Goso Municipal Hospital, St. Elizabeth Hospital, and Bechem Government Hospital. In the northern region, we have Tamale Teaching Hospital, where already seen some cases now this afternoon. The Infectious Disease Center, which was built during the Ebola period. We have the Sabulugu Hospital and Yendi Hospital. These are all places where cases can be managed. The northeast region, incidentally, has a number of facilities: Baptist Medical Center, Cherry Point Hospital, Bindi Hospital, Jang, and then Walawale Hospital are all places where cases can be done. Savannah has 1 facility, West Gonja Hospital, in Damango is a place. In Upper West, Upper East, we have the Upper East Regional Hospital in Bolga. Upper West has 4 facilities where cases can be managed. One Municipal Hospital, Wa Regional Hospital, Tumu Government Hospital, and the St. Teresa's Hospital, Nandom. I mentioned the additional facilities have been secured in Greater Accra. This is the Bank of Ghana Hospital, which has a 42-bed, 10 ICU beds, as well as the critical force has been trained and they will be deployed early by Monday. The Greater Accra Regional Health Directorate and Kolebu Teaching Hospital are mobilizing up to commence work by Monday. Additionally, the University of Ghana Medical Center has been prepared with staffing and trained to commence work even this weekend. And they also have just about 15 beds. We have also initiated the new trend, joined the new treatment of using hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin as trial in some of these cases, and they seem to be doing quite well on them. Ladies and gentlemen, we aggressively carry out our contact tracing testing, which is in the focus area, that's Kumasi, Accra, and Tema. We have trained and deployed additional contact tracing teams and also providing more education and support to those in self-quarantine to enable them strictly adhere to the quarantine protocols. As I mentioned earlier, also using a lot of psychologists to provide psychosocial support for the patients who are being followed up. Most importantly, I want to entreat all Ghanaians to remain calm, knowing that what we're battling with is not a disease if you come early. Unlike Ebola, that kills 7 out of 10. We are looking about 2% here, but that is if you come early and you don't wait until late, you are likely to suffer. So we don't want anybody to hide or disappear, because you only create problems. You deny yourself care, and you also become a risk to other people in the community, which is something we all need to address. Those who have succumbed, as was mentioned, the 5 people, all had some serious underlying conditions which were not in proper control, and they were also aged. And so people must come early, report early to save everybody. We are also very grateful to all benevolent individuals and partners who have supported us, especially in the case management. We have organizations, churches that are offering food, etc. in these centers. We want to encourage them and thank them for their support. Thank you very much. Follow up. Before and after. Thank you.
Dr. Abuaje of the Ghana Health Service, thank you. Now, the President, a few nights ago, announced the imposition of restrictions pursuant to the Imposition of Restrictions Act that was recently passed by Parliament. Since then, there have been a number of follow-up questions asking for clarifications. We asked that these questions be submitted to the Ministry of Information through our social media handles. We've received a lot of them, and we have responses that we'll be providing to a good number of them. There are some that still need to, may I say, work with some of the respective heads of agencies to tidy up and then explain. But as we start with the clarifications, let me mention that DCOP Dr. Saibu Pabi Gariba is the Director of Operations of the Ghana Police Service. I'll invite you shortly, DCOP. Colonel William Norte is the Director, Army Operations at the Ghana Forces. I would invite you shortly. They will join us and explain how the Ghana Armed Forces and the Ghana Police Service will be forcing these restrictions. But before we get there, there are some exemptions to the restrictions and some clarifications. The Ghana Tourism Authority has a quick clarification for hotels, hotel operators, staff of some of these hotels. I want to invite Mr. Kwesi Ajiman to quickly explain to us. And the Public Services Commission, which superintends, among other things, civil servants, has also got some clarification to give. Once the President said members of the executive, legislature, and judiciary, we've received calls from several people say, me too, I'm a member of the executive. We're going to get some clarity. Mrs. Fofie is with the Public Services Commission. She will join us and explain what exactly this means, particularly for the executive. Agwezi.
Thank you very much, Kojo. Good afternoon, distinguished ministers, senior ministers here, Minister of Information, and colleague media practitioners. Before I go over the directives that have been issued, I believe it's proper that we thank the Ghana Hotels Association, the Progressive Hotels Association, who have been very, very helpful and creative in helping provide facilities that have been used as quarantine centers for those who came into the country during the travel ban period. And like Oliver Twist, we'll be asking for more support as we go along the journey, especially in the other regions where there will be for us to fall on hotels as quarantine centers. But the directives that we have are very simple and specific, following the directives by His Excellency the President on the imposition of restrictions on movement of persons in specific areas. The Tourism Authority, under the auspices of our ministry, the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, and in conjunction with the National Security Task Force on COVID-19, issues the following directives. 1. All hotels can operate as normal and host their guests. Their restaurants, gyms, and other facilities will serve only the residents, subject to enhanced hygiene protocols and social distancing. Their staff must wear their IDs, and we provided special passes by national security to enable them move in and out of the hotels. 2. Food chains and restaurants must operate only pickup and delivery services. So there will be no opportunity for people to go and sit in a restaurant to eat. You order your food and it will be delivered to you. Their staff will also be provided special passes by national security to enable them move in and out of their facilities. 3. All drinking bars, nightclubs, pubs within the specific areas must remain closed, and emphasis is on closed during the period. In all situations, facilities should observe the protocols and precautionary measures on public gathering as spelled out in the Imposition of Restrictions Act 2020. Thank you.
Thank you for that update. I want Mrs. Fofie of the Public Services Commission to please help us understand what is happening, particularly for civil servants or for the public services generally, and especially for those who work in ministries, departments, and agencies. There are those who say, once I work in a ministry, I'm a member of the executive, so I'm exempted. Can you please help us understand the details?
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, Minister of Health, and the Deputy Ministers here present. I'm grateful for the opportunity to actually get to the public officers at large with a few clarifications. I think when we talk about the executive branch, yes, indeed, it's the presidency, it's our ministers, but they do have a cadre of technical people who support them. To determine who actually is exempt from the rules that were given to us by His Excellency the President, the head of civil service, Nana Ajekum Dwamna, and the head of the local government service, Nana Atuata, have both developed and posted at their various platforms detailed guidelines as to who is eligible. And so at this point, if you are a member of civil service, if you are a member of the local government service, we are asking you to go to your head of service and ask as to whether you are exempt. Nobody is to determine that they are exempt unless the order is given by these two heads of services. With regards to the other public services, again, we're leaving it to heads of the organizations and the entities to determine who will be essential, and these people will have to be authorized specifically, maybe with some identification, so that the security forces will be able to tell
These are people who need to go through, and without the proper identification, we are saying to the security forces, nobody is to be let in unless they're able to provide that, one, they are authorized to be out, and two, they have to be, they have the proper identification to let them through. Let me take this opportunity to also say to all public officers, the fact that we're not in the physical work environment does not mean official business is closed. The directive that was issued by the Public Services Commission on the 23rd of March specifically said all our business continuity plans are to be enforced. Business has to continue. The only catch is not to happen within the premises of our regular working space. That means the business continuity plans that we asked you to do about a week and a half ago, for which you were supposed to have handed in to the Public Services Commission and also to the Office of the President, the Office of the Chief of Staff, if you haven't already done so, you need to tender them, and more importantly, use that as a guide as to what businesses could continue, so that at the end of this, we will still have had a lot of government business taking place, even though we're not within the physical space of our offices. Thank you very much.
Stay with me. I still need some more clarification. So earlier this morning, the Chief of Staff issued a circular that says that for the avoidance of doubt, members of the executive refers to honorable ministers, deputy ministers of state, senior staffs at the presidency, and special assistants. Then it goes to say that all other members of the public service are to comply with the circular issued by the Public Services Commission with reference to AB. And circular in summary says what?
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. This circular was actually asking us on the 23rd of March that only essential services, people who are required to be in working environment, the physical working environment, were to be in attendance. Obviously, the directive that we got 3 days ago has modified that somewhat. The business of the public offices are to continue, not in the physical spaces. And more important, those who are to give the ministers, to give the coordinating office of municipalities, the technical advice and the technical support, have to be able to continue doing that. So they may have to work out a plan, and indeed that's why the heads of the services are critical. They have put together, understand they've posted, so go to the platforms, and for the local government service, what is your head telling you? Who has to be in attendance? Who has to be there to support your DCE or your MCE? Because they will need our technical assistance, as they are not, the directive doesn't tell us that indeed they are exempt and cannot be at their offices. So we have to be there, the technical, and typically these will be the chief directors, these will be the regional coordinating directors, these will be the district coordinating directors, these will be directors. But I think we leave at the Public Services Commission, in consultation with the head of civil service and the head of the local government service, have agreed to leave this in the hands of the heads to determine who needs to be at office at any given time. We also want to stress that as we do this, we still have to continue with the social distancing. And indeed, from our perspective, it's more than social distancing. We're asking people to abide by physical distances that have been put on the table for us. Thank you.
Thank you. For the avoidance of doubt, ministers, deputy ministers, chief directors, regional and district directors or coordinating directors are those who are captured in this. Beyond them, if anybody, any technical person in this basket of the executive has to work, you would need to be categorized as such by the heads of the services, else you will have to consider yourself as being part of the, may I say, the normal body of persons. Now, respect to agencies and state-owned enterprise, the SIGA, that is a state interest governance authority, issued this clarification for SIGA, all of those who are state-owned enterprises. It's only the essential services that must continue. But even for those, it is the critical staff in those agencies that offer essential services, like electricity and water, etc., that offer essential services. And SIGA is providing further clarity at that level for those who are in and those who are not. But even for those who are in, it's those who offer the critical service. So it's not just that because we all work at ECG, we are all going to work because ECG is an essential service. It's the critical staff as defined by the heads of that organization that will be going to work. Now, the Honorable Minister for Health and his team will have to take leave of us to attend the Presidential Task Force meeting. So I'm going to break here and take health-related questions so that they can take leave of us, and then I'll come to security and then the further clarification. So if there are health-related questions, I'm happy to take them now, and then they can take leave of us, and after that we'll deal with enforcement. Kojo, I see your hand up. Can I get some assistance in setting up the microphone? I think I see it up as well. So I'll take two at a time. Please bring the microphone forward. Health-related questions. Health-related questions. Ernest, please step forward. Just step forward. Then I'll come to take about two more.
Thank you very much. My name is Ernest Minen from Journeys. Good to know we are going to do enhanced testing now, but I want to know how many test kits we have, how many can the Kumasi Center test at a go. And the second question on health is, before the Monday quarantine, before that, we had people coming in from epicenters, Italy and what have you. If you expect somebody like that, who is not being disciplined enough to self-isolate, what do you do? And is there any effort to trace such people? Because I'm sure we have data available. Thank you.
Dr. Nsensari, take note of the test kits question. Sir, Kojo?
All right. I also want to find out that yesterday many people traveled. So there's a possibility that we're going to have more community cases, surveillance measures in the communities. That's my question. And then we want to find out the state of those who got infected through the community infections. What are their states and how many people they come into contact in their households?
Honorable Bacho, me come in Jumu Kakra.
Yeah.
Okase mono ka bibi se eyetemale. Omso enya cases ni be 10. Na ho no sene Accra and Kumasi so ya restrictive measures I say obi ko baby an. Sa ho so na ho so ebe ya na. E na afi so eya yenua obo enya ne tie se opapa free mu na free no free eye sa ya rebi na free na. Di kan wa mo eye and for an answer doctor for na money na umkofa no eno so yepesi yepem say e no cry na say no cry.
If there's a second wave of questions, health-related questions, I'll be happy to take them now. Yes, sir. Step forward. Ghanaian Times. Okay.
From Clifford.
Okay. Do you have another health-related question there? Or there's no health-related question? Okay. Let me take yours as a last health-related question and then we'll wrap it up. Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. I'm Selom Amenya with TV3. So there are persons with some underlying health concerns. For instance, dialysis who would be going for regular dialysis. We are being told that people should hold ID cards. Under circumstance, what do they do? Are the facilities going to give them some form of authorization letters or something so that they can also move around?
Thank you. Dr. Nsensari, test kits.
Yeah, test kits. As I said, at the moment, Noguchi and KCCI and Kumasi are doing our tests. Noguchi, from what we've heard from them, they have about 10 PCR machines, and their capacity for a day is about 800 tests. And then KCCR has 2, which is about 20%. So I would say that they can do 20% of 800 tests. We have, as we speak now, we have enough test kits. Jack Ma from Alibaba sent recently some test kits to us. We understand we can do about 4,000 tests from the consignment that they gave us. We've got in about 10,000 test kits also, and there are about another 40,000 test kits on the way coming. If you use a test, what is more important, because we are doing PCR, we do normally take samples from the nose or the throat. And you can also, if somebody can produce sputum, you can also use sputum. So what is limiting us at the moment is the sputum. I think we have about 5,000 or plus. And then we have the test, the sample swabs also. We have some, but bringing in more. So within a week, we have enough to work and do a lot of. That's why I said that this evening we'll be able to do the quantification, how much we can do an hour, so that we can use that one to monitor our progress. So we have enough test kits as I speak now. And as I said, I was giving the presentation, we are also now going, KCCR, Noguchi, as I know, is now doing some tests of some samples of rapid tests which has come in. And when they finish that one, then there's a policy which is going to be in place through FDA, Noguchi, and then Ghana Standard Authority. And they will introduce the rapid tests, especially for surveillance to determine the prevalence of the disease in various communities. So we have enough test kits to do the test, so nobody should be worried about it. We'll come to your homes and test you, because we take the samples and send it to the test areas and you'll be tested. So as we come there to do the contact tracing, we also will be taking the necessary samples for testing.
Ghana Health Service, please get ready for the question about underlying health conditions. I'm sure you took note of it, about the people with underlying health conditions. But so 2 questions on self-isolation and those who were already under surveillance, under what we call the passive surveillance. If you have reason to believe that there's somebody who has a condition and perhaps is not coming for it, you can again call the hotline 112. Do acknowledge that it takes a while for the calls to be taken, but it's because of the sheer overload of calls they're getting. So please be patient and do your best to get through, and you can give them information. If you are calling from the Ghana Post app, the location can even be identified very quickly, and they can do well to now, thankfully, when the restrictions start, there will be police and military within the vicinity who can also help in ensuring the person is assisted to take the necessary test. Those who traveled before the mandatory time started, what is happening with them and their testing? So if you go back to the cutoff point that we started with, that was about the 3rd of April, you'll find a total batch of about 34,000 people who came in during that period. You match that data, countries that had recorded cases at the time, and you can begin to eliminate a lot of the numbers. Indeed, there are 14 flights that we believe came from jurisdictions which had active cases within that period. There's a total of about 3,000 people, 2,900 and something, 2,400 and something, 2,400 and something persons from those 14 flights. They form the second ring of the contact tracing, and as Dr. Nsiasari mentioned, because Ghana Immigration has all their data, they are engaging with those persons to test them. About 2,400 people on 14 flights that came during that period. That's the secondary ring. The primary ring are the direct contact persons who've been traced, as Dr. Malm explained to us. So this is how we intend to deal with that one. And then the active surveillance, once they get into the community, persons who have general similar symptoms, etc., they can also begin to do that. So I hope that responds to your question. The contact tracing, they are finding about 20 contacts, average about 20 contacts per person. there's a request for us to give some more information about the Obo-related case. That matter, my understanding, is under investigation both at the hospital and then at various places. We are done with that. We'll be in a position to share some information with you. Ghanaian Times is asking how to ensure that the facilities are not overwhelmed. First step, we are saying, the lesson from Italy and other places is that if everybody starts rushing the hospitals, we will be in trouble. And that's why we're saying the first line, call. And we're also asking those who are handling the emergency center to ensure that when people call, we dispatch people to their samples so that we ease the pressure on the hospitals. Routine and other non-critical issues at the hospitals as well, we're asking that we slow them down at this point in time. Dr. Abaje, underlying comments. Underlying conditions, rather. Yes.
The testing, we, as the minister said, we group them into cohorts. The first cohort, as he said, are there already people, now it's about 65 or so. So we follow all their contacts and then test them. The second cohort, we know them already, the 78 people who were quarantined and test positive. Luckily, they haven't come in contact with their family. So we know that they are already tested, they are positive, kept them, and they are in isolation. But they had contacts at the airport on 21st and 22nd. The service providers, the handlers at the airport, we've gotten all their names, and we are also going to test all of them. And if anybody proves positive, also the contacts. And the third cohort is that, as he said, we're thinking of going back. But we will decide exactly how far to go back. Because the science says that it should be about 14 days when they came in. And if you take 3rd of March, you realize that it will be more than 4 days. Today is 28th. So we will also determine, that's what I said at the beginning, we know how far we should go. So we shall also all their contacts, and when they finish the contact tracing. And the fourth one will be the new cases who are becoming positive. For example, the Tamale case, the Wa case, we shall also go there and do all the contact tracing. And then the fifth cohort will be, which we are deciding down, frontline health workers. For example, on Bo's case, the frontline workers who saw the patient before the patient passed away. That will happen. And we even added another cohort of the 6 after 14 days quarantine. We will continue also looking for contacts and then testing them. These are the 6 cohorts that we will be testing and make sure that they are all tested. And they will know the number of times that people will be tested. They test positive before they are discharged, tested after 14 days on 2 consecutive times. If negative, then we discharge them. So these are the things that we will have to do. And we also decided that the other 10,030 minus 78, the negative ones who are also quarantined in the hotels, we will test them after 14 days. So this is the plan for testing.
Thank you very much. The underlying conditions. What we are saying that if you have an underlying condition like diabetes, etc., it reduces your immunity and your ability to fight. So as part of our triaging, we ensure that these are included and managed appropriately, and based on that we know that your risk profile is higher. And so that's why we ensure that even when doing the case search that will start tomorrow, one of the questions we'll be asking is, do you have any history of such condition, underlying conditions, respiratory conditions? Somebody already has a restrictive chest problem, etc. These are all things that we need to look out for. And things that actually reduces your ability to fight, like reduce your immunity. These are things that we'll be looking out for that. I want to add, for example, the question from Graphic. And that is why we're doing the triaging to ensure that how many of them can be managed at home, so that we do not unduly overload the facilities. And then based on the home environment, if it can be managed at home, we'll do that. Currently we have our 14, and by tomorrow we have a few more who will be managed at home because the home environment is appropriate, the condition is not critical, they do not have any underlying condition that will make them at risk. So that's the question. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abuaje. Are we done with the health-related questions? Ernest, I'll give you the very final health-related question. You had a question that wasn't answered? Very quickly. What was that? As in those who have other critical care issues. We will respond to that one as part of the general exemptions, because health services are exempt. Hospitals, clinics, etc. remain open. Their staff are open. So we'll speak some more about that when we come to the exemptions.
Yes,
quickly.
thank you, Coach. From what the experts tell us, ventilators are very crucial as far as the treatment of this is concerned.
If you get to critical stage, that's a major caveat. Yes.
So I know altogether there's about 100 in the country. Are there plans to manufacture some more ventilators just so, because the testing increases or the net expands, we're going to have more cases?
Dr. Abuaje, there's a specific question of whether or not you have plans to bring on board more ventilators for those who may have severe cases. We hope we never get, but hope is not a plan. So, do we have plans of getting in some more ventilators? Very quickly.
Yeah, thank you very much. We have already done a case count. We are collaborating with our partners, private partners who have ventilators to make them available. And Honorable Minister has ordered some ventilators, and I think 50 ventilators. I believe that 20 has already arrived. In a few weeks, we're going to have about 18 more from the Deborah ward. And so there are plans to really scale up. But the most important thing that nobody's to get there. So everybody must assist so we don't get there. Our bigger countries and richer countries get there and they can cope. So everybody must cooperate with us. So we identify and treat you early so that we don't get into that stage. Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister, we are very grateful that you've made some time to be with us. I don't know if you have any final comments that you want to make as you take care of us with your team, and then we'll continue with security.
My final comments, ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Minister, the fact that our president is behind us, fully committed, ready to deploy resources. He says to us that if it is left with a single city in the national case for coronavirus, he will utilize that to ensure that he protects the nation. He took an oath, he vowed to protect the country, and that is exactly that he wants to do. He's in good spirits. He meets with that almost every hour. And I want to believe that not till he succeeds in fighting this battle, our old man will never rest. Ghana should be assured that we are ever ready to fight. The type of structures we have put in place will give us indication we are getting closer to winning the battle. Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister, thank you. We will see you later at the meeting at the Jubilee House. The Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 is meeting, and that's why they have to take leave of us. Now, we have some clarifications based on the questions that you asked. Clarifications about port workers, banks, some of them. We're going to go into it shortly. But let's take a general rule on how we to enforce this. DCOP Dr. Saibu Pabi Kariba, Director Operations, Ghana Police Service. Colonel Amnote, Director, Army Operations. Gentlemen, the podium is yours.
The Honorable Minister of Information, the Deputy Minister of Information, colleagues, senior officers, distinguished invited guests, our friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to everybody. I am DCOP Dr. Gariba, Director of Operations at the National Headquarters. This afternoon, I represent National Security Joint Security Task Force that is supporting the Ministry of Health or the Ghana Health Service in the COVID safety operations. Therefore, the statement that I make here, I make it on behalf of the Security Task Force that is going to enforce the restrictions that have been ushered by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana. As you recall, the National Security has actually put in place a Security Task Force to support the Ministry of Health and the Ghana Health Service to actually fight the pandemic coronavirus. For that reason, a joint security task force has been set up A code name for this operation is called Operation Covert Safety. To be able to achieve objectives, we have actually come out with certain operational strategies. Our task is to enforce the restrictions as articulated and outlined by His Excellency the President. To be able to do that, we are going to look at some key issues. The security agencies want to make some statements clear here. We look at these operations as a humanitarian operation. It is not a war. It is a humanitarian operation. We are all fighting the coronavirus. So we need support from the population to be able to do that. We are not going to intimidate anybody. We are rather going to support the Ghana Health Service and the people of Ghana to be able to fight this pandemic and achieve the overall objective of His Excellency the President of the Republic of Ghana. So in this context, we looking at some actions that we are going to undertake. What are the duties that we are going to do? We'll definitely do the issue of roadblocks in the affected areas. As we know, the Honorable Minister of Information has articulated Ashanti, especially Kumasi, Metropolis, and Accra. Then we can also extend that into Tema and Kasua. That is what has been. So our operations for enforcement of the restrictions would actually go according to the demarcations that have been outlined by His Excellency the President. To do this, we are going to do roadblocks along the peripheries of the demarcations. But security operations, to be able to get maximum effect, we're going to do outer cordon and inner cordon. So outside this, we are also going to do snap checkpoints. Then we'll do static post deployment. And this deployment will cover issues of the market centers, shopping malls, and all the other areas that have been articulated by the President. Then, of course, the operation is a joint one, a national security coordinated joint operations, Ghana Police Service, Ghana Armed Forces. Of course, the other security agencies are in play, the Ghana Immigration Service, National Security, Bureau of National Investigation. We are all doing these joint operations together. Aside these areas of operations, when we take specifics into the areas, we look at a place like, one, Accra. To be able to do effective roadblock, we are looking at, say, if we take Accra-Winneba roads, we want to actually pass information to the population to understand that you see joint deployments in some different areas in terms of blocking. Accra-Winneba, we're going to look at about the Wija toll booth. It has a platform, the infrastructure to be able to mount a blockade. We're also going to look at Accra-Akropong route, especially taking into context Akuapem South in Accra. And for that one, we are going to look at a blockade at Ayimensa toll booth. Then we're going to look at Accra-Dodoa. Taking that into context, we look at a place called Maba just after OEB. Then we'll look at also issues of going into Tema area, which is also within Accra. We look at the Akosombo route, and that one will look at Asuchari Junction as the outer cordon. Then, of course, we look at Aflao, we look at outer cordon around Chopoli barrier, then we do the inners. Then, of course, we look at Accra, this is Ashaman, that is Ashaman, Santor areas. Then the beach road, we are looking at the Sakumono level crossing as one of our outer covers. Then, of course, we're going to look at Ashanti region. When we look at Ashanti region, we are going to look at outer cordon, Kumasi Mampon route. We are looking at Mampontin toll boat. Kumasi Boase, we are looking at outer cordon at Pechi number 2. Then we come to the Ines. Then we look at at least Kasua areas, because within political regions, it's within central region. Our security apparatus in terms of military and police that run the central region will look at that enclave, and we have to look at outer cordon at Kasua Amansama route at Adam Nana. Then Kasua Accra, we look at Pig Farm. Then we are looking at Pig FM. Then we are looking at Kasua Nyanyano route. We are looking at Kakraba Junction. Then Within these parameters, we are also looking at some key issues and measures that we need to put in place to be able to enforce the presidential directive. So where are we now? We want to inform that the security agencies are ready to do this job. We have set up our operational command centers. We have done our briefing. We have also deployed resources to some of these locations. If you observe, some crash barriers have been sent to appropriate locations within the day. Then, of course, our vehicles, logistics, and all those things are in place. So by the time that the president has set up, you will see our security agencies in place and fighting this. But this is a humanitarian operation, and that's how we are going to run it. It is not an operation that is going to intimidate the people. We are looking at the sensitivity of the people. We are serving the people, and that is how we are going to run it. But in going forward, we also want to convey to the people that security is a joint effort and a joint action. We want to appeal to Ghanaians that they must also support security agencies in delivering this important task that His Excellency the President has given to us. So we want cooperation, collaboration. And we can assure you that all the issues that have been stated, we are going to enforce it to the letter as far as the presidential directives are concerned. Noting into context the exemptions that have been given. The exemption has been given, and we are going to comply with it, and we'll go according to the presidential directive. As has been articulated by some of the representatives that delivered speeches, identification is very, very important. And once you produce identification, credible identification, a passage will be granted. And we'll also make sure that we are flexible to be able to engage the people to serve them so that it will serve the purpose of the country. On this note, I will invite my colleague from the Ghana Armed Forces to also add his voice to the strategy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I am Colonel William Norte, the Director, Army Operations, representing the Ghana Armed Forces. So what my colleague has presented is the joint plan. And as we speak now, our forces are down planning the nitty-gritties on how to make sure that this enforcement comes into effect. So what we see this is a military assistance to the civil authority, with the police being the lead. We are in the background supporting. And he made very important pieces of information, like the support must come from the populace. This morning we woke up to a mischievous information that had been put on social media about military saying they are going to do XYZ. This is not true. In this time, people should make sure that the information we give is accurate information, that together we can fight this menace that we are currently experiencing around the world, and particularly in our country now. On the military side, we have mobilized over 2,000 Army, Navy, and Air Force, and the plan is to support the police. So we have Air Force elements who will help in lifting medical supplies and also assist in monitoring from the air and ensuring that every aspect of this enforcement comes to play. The Navy is also going to patrol certain aspects of the sea. We have already information that some people are crossing in by boats and things like that. So we want to make sure that this enforcement is complete so that people don't bring these sicknesses across our waters or from the bar areas. Then with the Army, we have a very strong force to back our police colleagues. So this, in effect, is the plan that the Army has. The police is leading, and we are solidly behind them with all my logistics to help. Thank you.
Because if you don't use sanitizer, I'll also put you in custody here. DOP and Colonel, thank you very much for that quick brief. Two key things they mentioned. This is a humanitarian operation. It's not a combat operation. They need our collective support to succeed. Colleagues, this battle that we are fighting is not one battle to win. It requires the entire, it's an all of Ghana battle. All of us have to play a part. And that's why we keep making the point that if we compromise the efforts that we are making, then we'll lose together. If you are trying to smuggle in people at the time that borders have closed, you are defeating the national effort. If you're a family member, when a colleague is maybe in quarantine or at a treatment center, we know you care. You can reach out to them on phone, through video calls, keep them company, chat with them. But if you try to make it difficult for the persons who are managing these facilities, you are compromising the effort. If you are showing up at health facilities and you are withholding critical information and exposing our very dear healthcare persons who are there, like I said, what will happen is that some of them will have to go into self-isolation, and we're gradually reducing the numbers of healthcare persons who are needed to take care of us. All of us need to play our part so that we can win this battle. We received a number of follow-up questions. We want to quickly go through them and provide the answers for those that we have now, and then show how we will provide further answers. Does government need volunteers, and how can I sign up? The Ghana Health Service has reached out to trained healthcare personnel who are currently not engaged, and they've been asked to assist with the various interventions such as contact tracing, support care, etc. Any further need for volunteers will formally be announced. But at this stage, the Ghana Health Service has a pool of persons that they are working with. Any further volunteers or need for volunteers will be announced. Now, there are questions, a group of questions about food and necessary supplies. One, can owners of tabletop businesses, supermarkets, and provision stores operate? Persons who trade in the food value chain, are exempted from the imposition of restrictions. They are allowed to continue to sell food. Dealers in non-food items are expected to have their shops and their stores closed. May I repeat that? Persons who trade in the food value chain are exempted from the imposed restrictions. They are allowed to continue to sell food. But dealers in non-food items are expected to keep their stores and their shops closed. Are restaurants allowed to work in the restrictions period? I think the Ghana Tourism Authority has provided some answers. For the avoidance of doubt, cooking of food for sale is not prohibited. Cooking of food for sale is not prohibited. What is prohibited is the provision of services for people to sit, congregate, and eat. It is allowed to cook, or it is allowed for persons to cook and sell for patrons to take away. As much as possible, social distancing must be observed at any such place of purchase of cooked food. So the wache seller at the junction or something can do a small wache for people in the community who will buy, but social distancing must be observed there. And the security, as they are working within the local communities, are aware of this and will, with discretion, know how to handle this. Buying and selling of cooked food should be based at the local community level, so that when people need food to eat at the local community, they can buy some at the local community level. But you are not allowed to have people sitting on, whether it's a restaurant or a chop bar or something. You can cook for people to buy and take away in that local community, but we must observe the social distancing there. There's another question about what type or proof of documentation or permission do I need to get exemption if I work in an institution that is exempt. The list of exemptions that were provided. Exempt institutions and their employees will be required to show their staff IDs to the police or the military to be given access to move. Exempt institutions and their employees, particularly employees, you have to show IDs and then they will allow you to move. However, even for the exempt institutions, only critical staff of these exempt institutions are expected to have access. That's why we've asked the heads of institutions to rationalize numbers, because the spirit of the restriction is that as much as possible, everybody should stay at home. That's why the president says the battle line is at your front door. When you step out, you are at a real risk. So even for the exempt institutions, they're asking that only the critical staff who have been fined by those institutions are the ones who are expected to be out tend to the business of those institutions, and you're required to have your staff ID with you so that our colleagues from the military and the police will give you access. Again, there are those who are asking what proof of permission or documentation do I need if I'm an informal worker, market women, local food sellers. Market women, local food vendors, and persons accessing local toilet facilities in their local communities be given discretionary access by the police or the military within that local community. So part of the security effort is that, like I said, there's the outer perimeter closure and then there's the inner perimeter presence. They'll be doing some foot patrols in the areas, and therefore they get acquainted with the local community. So for those who are doing very simple things like accessing the local public toilet, etc., they will get acquainted with it, and then they will give you the discretionary access that is required. Indeed, we are informed that a lot of the markets, they have their own IDs and group ID cards that they are using. That becomes handy even for the informal workers. There's another question that has come through. We've seen it in various dimensions. Are there plans to lock down other parts of the country anytime soon? The restrictions are limited to the hotspots in the Greater Accra and Greater Kumasi areas. At the moment, there are no plans to extend those restrictions. The situation is, however, under regular review. Depending on how these 2 weeks pan out, His Excellency the President will give us an update on our next line of action. So as we speak right now, the restrictions are limited to the hotspots, Greater Accra, Greater Kumasi. At the moment, there are no plans to extend it, but it's under review, and depending on what we find, we'll let the nation know. Another issue that has come up very strongly is to do with the scores of persons who have exited the Greater Accra and Greater Kumasi regions in the last 24 hours. Indeed, currently there are reports of challenges entering the Western region, I think, because some efforts at screening are taking place for persons who want to enter the Western region. Please pay attention to this. Teams for contact tracing and testing of at-risk populations had already planned to be present in other regions apart from the restricted regions. That is how come you will find out that in the deployment of the teams for contact tracing, they deployed people in other regions apart from Greater Accra and the Greater Kumasi regions for the purposes of our conversation. So contact tracing and testing is not limited to Greater Accra and Greater Kumasi alone. Additionally, we are also asking residents of the other regions to respect the social distancing and preventive etiquette generally, but also especially when engaging persons who have rushed into other regions ahead of these restrictions. Any such persons who come into your regions, we encourage you to also advise that they can touch with the local health authorities and report if they do have symptoms, etc., so that immediate attention is taken. But at the same time, observe the social distancing and preventive etiquette that we've been speaking about. But there are teams, both of police, military, health, in the other regions that will be assisting us with contact tracing and testing. So contact tracing and testing is not just limited to Greater Accra and Greater Kumasi. I'm sure we understand this. Are we clear on this one? Okay, colleagues, thank you. Now, can individuals in the restricted areas go to Mokola, Kanishi, and other big markets to buy things on a daily basis? Movement for buying and selling of food and essentials is advised to be localized as much as possible. As much as possible is allowed to be localized. If there's a need for some bulk supply into a particular area, it doesn't need to be on a daily basis. The markets will remain open, so you don't also need to rush and crowd these markets. But as much as possible, we ask you to try and do any essential transactions at the very local level. But like has been said, if you don't have any of these essential things to do, please stay at home. Is it allowed to travel through the affected cities? For instance, someone traveling from Takrade to Techiman through Kumasi. No movement of persons will be allowed into or out of the restricted areas except for those exemptions that have been mentioned and for food items. So human traffic or passenger traffic, you won't be allowed into the perimeters as have been announced. There are questions from some specialized groups. I'm a staff of the Judicial Service. Can I go to work? Already, Chief Justice has announced some protocols that must be observed at this point in time. But there are some very few persons who have cases in the courts and are wondering whether they should attend those cases in the courts. The Chief Justice's directives advise on how far adjournment should be given so that we have space to get out of this window before we attend to it. But for those who have critical business, particularly lawyers who have critical business, very critical business, that they must appear before some courts. Your biometric ID cards, once they are shown, and proving materials that proves that you have this urgent business on this particular before the courts, will be looked at by the local police military. In the meantime, it is our expectation that the judiciary and parliament will take a cue from what the executive is doing at this point in time and also advise accordingly there. Can we get some clarity on measures that have been put in place for the media during lockdown? Media is an exempt institution. In the executive instrument that His Excellency the President will gazetted hopefully tomorrow for these restrictions. And please bear in mind that the EI-64 is not the one that applies to this one. The EI-64 was, I think, gazetted on the 23rd. That was the first raft of measures that have been announced. There's a new EI that is going to be gazetted for the measures that the President announced. It exempts the media and other categories. Media practitioners on duty are advised to carry their staff ID cards at all times and as much as possible be in branded vehicles for media practitioners. As much as possible, carry your staff ID cards in branded vehicles or branded apparel. But again, for all of these exempted organizations, including media, critical staff only. The spirit of the restrictions is that as much as possible, a lot of people should stay home. So we don't say that we're a media house, we have a staff of 200, we're exempt, so all of us have to work. We do know that you are doing your own plans to rationalize numbers. The critical staff who have to be out there, please carry your IDs and be in branded apparel vehicles as well. How many staff of essential service can go to work? Even for essential services, only critical staff are expected to go to work. There's a question on who are the members of the executive for purposes of these restrictions. And I'm informed that I think on television there were breaks in audio, so not all of Mrs. Fufi's admonitions were heard properly. Just for the avoidance of doubt, the president and staff or senior officers at the presidency, ministers and deputies, MMDCs, chief directors, regional and district directors are those that are contemplated as exempt. If they are technical or critical staff who must assist these persons, the heads of the services are designating who these technical or critical staff are, and they will be given permits, special permits, so that they can also support their heads, as I have mentioned. I hope that is quite clear. The questions on the stimulus package and how it spreads out, the Minister responsible for Finance will be in Parliament, I think, on Monday, and he will respond to all of those issues. I think the role of the military and the police have been explained. Kindly confirm, let me move to trade and commerce questions. Kindly confirm if cleaning companies that provide cleaning services can also work. No, it is not in our contemplation. E-commerce businesses, because we mentioned some telecom businesses. Critical staff of the exempted technology businesses will be required to carry ID cards and function. For those in the banking sector, the Bank of Ghana has issued a circular that spells it out. As much as possible, we expect that numbers will be rationalized even for these. Even the Bank of Ghana itself has rationalized its numbers of persons on work and is giving them special passes that they've cleared with national security, police and the military. Are there any transport arrangements for essential workers? Yes, company buses for the exempt or essential services will be given stickers. Staff are required to carry their ID. Appropriate spacing in trotro and other means of public transport may operate. How do we go about that? Public transport operators are expected to have 1 seat apart or 1 meter apart in their public transport vehicles. That may be given limited operation. And the police and military will enforce it when you get to the various points. Are commercial drivers from other regions going to be allowed to come to Accra or Kumasi? No, not for passenger traffic. And I think on matters of identification, we have had an opportunity to speak to them. So if there are any follow-up questions on security and clarifications, we will take them and respond to as many as we can now, and then we would call it an afternoon. Mr. Ajiman, please come to the microphone. Bakumi ni bi wo say meka no wo atwi mu o ma ade wo dwom ene adwadifo exemption no ka wana yesere say wo ma ton aduane e dwom ana say niema ide aduane wo dwom no ye bie nanso wo na ye hwe anim say wo mo bekodwom se ne wo no pese aduane ne ade betumi anya ebi ato adi niema emfa aduane ho obi ton TV obi ton niema ne ade wo dwom de sabre enye no ho asem ne kantade ne ade de enye no ho asem ne kokanti edwane de ye bie police woni military for ne ade wo around but yes repas wonu me di dwa fa aduane ho ne keka ho ne ade no wonum nanka ebum ebi musu bisa se wo mo ye aduane sen nete pacho se wo ye aduane aton ama obi wo umpeswa no so a obia ne eni asem dia yem penene se obeye aduane na nkofo atena se bebre se omudidi chop bar ne restaurant ne ade da bi obi betumi aye aduane mo obi aba be akọ but no ewo umpeswa no mu hwa yenya nim se maami we no ton koka se tumi ton kakra wo ho na obi aba be tobi no nso wanya kakra sa brimpo obeto ana ode akọhye fie akọ na yem pene se nkofo betena tena se restaurant ana chop bar say ena etie one so ye adwuma wo enyuko na ye say am exemption no ubehia say wo de ID card ebe na nso say bia wo kọ agyanan bia wo ompeso ana bibia send any ID card na ade konti police for ni soldier for ni ade wo no omo so omo wo mpeso ani mu wo no omo nim se na etie no mama wakwenya ema wakọ Mr. Ajman.
We understand that the President's directives mentioned quite a number of institutions that are exempted. Unfortunately, quite a number of institutions within the port clearance chain were not mentioned. However, cargoes are supposed to come in. So you're going to have people who go clear these goods, including some of the goods that are required to treat people and all of that. So if we can be clear on what institutions are exempted around the clearance chain, it would be of help. If you take the Ghana Port and Harbours Authority staff, for instance, and if you take, say, the shipping lines, for instance, you take the freight forwarders, for instance, can there be a clear exemption or exemption clause that would cover these people for the purposes of clearing cargo from the seaport? And maybe you would love to look at some of the borders as well.
Mr. Ejman, thank you. The ports remain open for cargo business. The ports remain open for cargo business. What that means is that the critical GPHA staff who are required to assist in cargo business will be in an exempt category. The critical staff of freight forwarding companies that are working on bringing this cargo will be an exempt category. The critical staff of the shipping lines will be an exempt category. So the ports remain open for cargo business. Critical staff of these various groups of organizations that are required to clear some of these goods that are coming in fall in that category. For them as well, we ask them to show their IDs at various checkpoints across the country.
So the ident cards are good enough from the organizations?
Yes.
Not special permit or whatever?
There are some special permits that have been developed for some other categories. But for these categories, your staff IDs, if you are from Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, your critical staff, the staff ID should be able to allow you. In private companies, like some of the freight forwarding companies, we ask the company heads to help us rationalize the numbers at this point in time. Even though you are an exempt category, rationalize the numbers. The critical staff are the ones that we are hoping you would let go, and same applies to the shipping lines as well.
And the last bit of that would be importers who have also imported critical goods, for instance, foods and pharmaceutical products. They get them.
They would have to deal with the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. So you then give them the necessary documentation that shows that they, as ordinary persons, have this exemption, and then they apply accordingly.
Thank you, Kudu.
Thank you very much. I have some questions here. We have to try and wrap this up in about 15 minutes. Yeah.
Yanintie bebree sɛ yɛwɔ board ahorow bebree hɔ noma ɛhyehyɛ nkurankura bi ase na ɛno bambɔ no hanamontu mutu de abɔ ban sɛ because obi a desperate obi a ɔpɛ sɛ ɔpɛ baabi kɔhyɛ bi a desperate nti ɛno soso no ɔmo ma yi hu te sɛ nea border na known borders ɔmo ablɔko na ɛyɛ na afei yɛsɛ goose ebitumi a goose woyɛ den ɛkɔ bi a nipa ɛka ho nti no relationship ne anamontu no yɛhu. Secondly, mantemba mpɛsɛ wohwɛ ma yɛ yɛpɛsɛ yɛhu age bracket a ɔmo test positive no or a cover because tinje bebree wɔ akyiri sɛ nkɔkorafoɔ ne mberewafoɔ yɛrɛ ɛsu mu a yes immune system issue ayɛ but to demystify that you know so see yɛhu afei ɔbi ɔnni sɛdeɛ agyanambea wɔ ne fie na Brazil yam can be pia bonche beba maybe suspicious to security say now they are what is the issue? How do we address that concern also?
Okay. me that say no quickly me can say me no a local discretionary issue police for ne asra for no be hwe no handle at level, but issues about more demographics say nipa na enya ya ni bi no mo age tsene ade Ghana Health Service a breakdown sa data ni na me gidi say bia anadwo na say ochina no pa ye meeting ayeye e wo efikasie mu a omo de beto omo platform no say data na ye de ba no afi ya chichem e ma unya more data me ankasa me de me hu sa data we age profile no keka on ade yare amrante ni mbebu minya mpanimfo tuminya de mom de ye kan say mpanimfo na say omo yare bi deda no omo na ye na omunya mu aye den kakra, but ye the data ni na beto platform no so ama obi ehu mema Mr. Frifa can be about borders no subsequently me take the other call. Yes sir.
Honorable, we there me bisa bibi wo trot issue no Friday no me ne adoba fo edi nkomo fa say ye be ja kwan ni bi na o ma trans obi ba be fo car na enkoye omobo ho na say no mo tie ase omo say omo nti bibi amfa na me bisa say mo ne GPRT for atranse abane ne GPRT for atranse adi hu nkomo afi cowness say no mo so ebeti ase afa because driver need to aduma onum say or as we says be a 1.5 into driver ne cow na hwe nim say oba yes says no na sisi aye dey ye be just space to me say no coffee on so betimi aye ni says omo nyina stay the scene na ati ase ana
very quickly minister responsible for transport or ne GPRT umpenim for esinkonwa ahodo edi sankomo em se da no no abegina ha no kire mu say social distancing o kan no potokasa ye kire mpa na kire say car ti me o say kwan ba ko da se ne ende yen yetete yi kwan de dem na obi hu nsu ankwa nkogu obi so anase obi ankwa nko bo obi so obi anko tintesu engu obi so the answer ne say nke be ya nkatene fie ne mum so o ka so wo de wo ka no be kwa bo anko ye adwuma e wo se kwan edidem se mo bi wo ho a ye bi abo asafo na finance minister ba parliament ejoada obetumi aka basabre instruction ye de amai no me osomafo action a ye de amai no ye nyina fa ye adwuma as much as possible no tena fie so kwa bonten akwa ye transport adwuma makwan didem se mo bi wo ho a ye betumi abo asafo na finance minister bema ya so ati Mr. Fifa, please stand by.
Just a quick one on
you still have questions from the board?
Yes, just one for the because a lot of people are asking. Now you said essential goods are going to be cleared. So
no, I didn't say essential goods.
No, critical goods are going to.
No, I said critical staff of these organizations.
Okay.
Ghana Ports and Harbors, freight forwarders, shipping lines. They should rationalize for critical staff.
Okay.
To be the ones who work, even though the ports are an exempted category. We don't want a situation where you say we are freight forwarding, we have a staff of 100. We are exempt, so all of us are going to work. No, the critical staff that you need are the ones that we're encouraging.
Okay, because we've seen letters from, say, GRA specifying certain goods that can be cleared within this period. So cars, for instance, are not be cleared and things like that.
Because they are also trying to rationalize the numbers. The spirit of this is to ensure that as many people stay at home as possible. You remember your question was about perishable goods, some of the items. So priority is given to those ones. So if you have items that are not going to perish under the circumstances, if GRA is giving this directive, it is something that we should observe. I'm sure pursuant to directive, when people raise questions of demurrage and
that's
other
exactly
things,
what I'm coming to.
I suspect that. Okay. When people raise those questions, they cannot benefit from their own, may I say, wrong, quote unquote. Yeah. That if they say don't clear, and the vehicle goes, no, that will be dealt with subsequently. Let's try up. Ernest.
Yes. So a doctor wants to know, if you talk of frontline health workers, does it include public health units and allied health professionals like chiropractors and what have you? Are they exempt from working? And then when it comes to diplomatic staff and also private security, what is the arrangement like? And then finally, I think that'll be it for now. Thank you.
So private security companies registered with the Ministry of the Interior are exempt. They all have IDs that the Ministry of the Interior and the Ghana Police Service are very familiar with. And therefore, they are exempt. They are able to work. New executive instrument captures private security companies, licensed security companies as well. All categories of health workers. Health is something that we can't wait for. You recall the president's very clear quote that even if it comes to economy, we know how to bring the economy back to life. But if people lose their lives, we don't know how to bring them back to life. And so all categories of health workers can work. Health remains open. However, if you have a non-critical condition, routine appointments, etc., that are not critical, we are asking you to abate it or to defer it. Okay? Different from those who have to go on dialysis and other things, because those ones are quite critical. If you don't do it, people could die. So health remains open. All categories of health workers remain open for business. They are an exempt category. But we're asking those of us who are citizens that if you don't have a critical or pressing health need that requires you to go to the hospital at this point in time, let's let them focus their attention on dealing with these critical issues. And since you mentioned health, let me also mention this. The president is very keen on ensuring that what the experts are telling him about the fact that PPEs have been distributed is true. He doesn't want a situation where they are telling him that, Mr. President, we've distributed it, everybody has, and it's not true. So he has instructed that we go through an exercise to validate from the various public health institutions across the country to be sure whether or not it is there and the directors are not distributing it to OPD and emergency, or is not there at all and they are telling us that it is there. In the coming days, I think probably even tomorrow, we will announce the platforms for validation. It's part of the discussions that are taking place at the task force meeting today. But that's just to respond to health. Kujo, I think you'll be our last one.
Yep.
Then please.
I have 3-in-1 questions. Number one, I didn't hear anything from DCOP and Kennel on internal security measures, apart from the roadblocks and then the Snapchat. You know, we have recalcitrant people who are going to take advantage of the situation. We need an update on that. And then secondly...
But you have to nuance your question. Are you talking general crime or people who will be recalcitrant on this matter?
General crime.
So there's general crime.
Yes.
And then there are those who will be recalcitrant.
Yes. How do we deal with those excesses? Some of the military men or police, they will not be so professional. How do we deal with the excesses? Who do we report to?
Don't assume they will not be professional.
I mean...
Yeah, go ahead.
And then what measures are being put in place with respect to the coastline, apart from going on speedboats to check those who are crossing their water bodies and the seas? Then you mentioned that the Navy is patrolling the seas. Give us more details on that. And my last question, that Dr. Insiasari mentioned some GOAT hospitals in our communities. Please reiterate that, or you can even get details of that so that we publish online. It will be very, very useful information.
Okay, I'm not too sure he was saying go to those hospitals.
I mean, those hospitals...
If I understood him, he was saying that these are hospitals that are designated as centers for treatment.
Obviously, people may...
No, we have to note that. And please let me explain why. Because we are trying to discourage people from going that this is a go to hospital, so go. So we are saying that these are centers for treatment. To answer the question whether we have beds and centers equipped for treatment, these are designated. But we are saying that as much as possible, if you have a condition, call.
But we should know that. I mean, we'll put it out there in the media. It's very good.
We'll get that list as well. We will get that list. Yes, sir.
Yes, still on security, like my brother was saying, Kojo. I want to know, in case there is an excess, let's say somebody is recalcitrant and then the security services go overboard or something happens, is there a way that we can report such a case? Who do we call? Because, for instance, I know there's an incident in Tamale where a complaint has been lodged against the mayor at Amnesty International. Is that where we go to report, or what do we do? So
let me make a general caveat as I invite my colleagues from security to join me up here. A general caveat. As has been said, this is a humanitarian operation. It's not a combat operation. For example, last night we saw a fake video circulating. The video is a genuine video, and then somebody recorded a fake voice overlap onto it. The video is a video of soldiers who had just returned from some bush training exercise. Market cleaning. It was just after this market cleaning. So they had returned from some exercises, market cleaning. Then somebody took that video and recorded a voice overlay that, you're back room, presidency, the police and the military are under strict instructions to employ democratic methods in protecting and enforcing. So they are not out there to people, etc. But if choose to be recalcitrant, they have orders on how to handle. They would explain that one to us, and we don't expect that to go overboard. Could you, I think the issue with the hospitals, we'll get that list of tests so that you can put them out. And then they'll speak to issues of criminal crime, those who are recalcitrant. Second, DCOP, join me and let's wrap up.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Minister of Information. Taking up the questions regarding general security, I can assure you that the security agencies are multitasking. This implies that we do every task that is given us by His Excellency the President and our commanders. Therefore, what we are doing now is an operation. That is why we've have a code name called Operation Covered Safety. So in addition to our normal or routine operations, this is an additional task that we are doing. So I assure you that the Ghana Armed Forces, the Ghana Police Service, and the security agencies doing these tasks, we are still doing our normal and routine security operations. So Operation Calif is running, that is day and night patrols to combat armed robbery and all the violent crimes. Operation Conquered First, that is looking at the borders in the north, is running. All other operations are running as normal. We have not scaled down. So I can assure you that routine operations is ongoing. There is no joke about that. Then regarding the issue of the coastlines, as my colleague has earlier said, the Ghana Police Service also has the Marine Police Unit, and they are cooperating and coordinating with the Ghana Navy to be able to do the job and do it well. Regarding the issue of recalcitrance, we have some issues, some orders. Like I've said, this is not war. It's a humanitarian operation. We are running it as such. So we are virtually liberal, sensitive to the people, and actually using democratic settings, security systems to run this operation. Notwithstanding that, if we are also use discretion, but we have the issue of minimum force when it comes to a level that we use minimum force for you to comply with the presidential directive, which are done. Then also when it gets to the issue of proportionate force, it will also be applied depending upon circumstances. But I can assure you that within all these parameters, we are doing the job with sensitivity, and then we've been giving strict orders, cooperate and support the people of Ghana. Thank you very much.
Just two quick ones to add. The military is going to brief the men who go on the ground to adhere strictly to instructions. And as such, we don't expect any excesses like some of you are suggesting. However, I want to use this medium to tell the people of Ghana that this is a very serious exercise. If we take it personal that we all need to do this together, there will be no need of excesses. So that is what I want to say. On the patrolling on the water areas, we already have men on the ground, so it's based on intelligence. What told you is what we have seen, and we have made moves to intercept all those people who are coming in various areas. There is a place around Afao and all those ones. It's based on critical intelligence. Men are on the ground, and as I said, there will be air support to all these areas. And if we get anything, all those things will be addressed to ensure this restriction of movement goes on. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to call Mr. Frifa to also respond to the issues of orders very quickly. And then there's a quick announcement from the presidency I'll share with you before we wrap up.
Thank you. As Honorable Minister, I just give an update on what we have been doing since last time we appeared here. The borders remain closed as directed by His Excellency the President. Subsequently, there have still been attempts by people to enter the country all around, especially on the eastern borders from Togo. Many people have been turned back, but still, I think we have some recalcitrant persons. This dawn, 4 Nigerians and a Ghanaian were intercepted at the Sogakope border post, having entered illegally through various unapproved routes on the Aflao border stretch.
They've been arrested. The driver has also been arrested. They are all being sent into mandatory quarantine, and the decision will be taken as the sanctions to impose. All that is that we are still having unpatriotic and unscrupulous persons in the border communities who are determined to undermine the government's effort to control the spread of the coronavirus. Some transporters, again, are also conspiring. What you are doing is that you are undermining this country and putting the whole country at risk. Ladies and gentlemen, to address this point, as we speak, and it was done by the Honorable Minister for Information, Tamale, as of today, 8 Nigerians and 2 Burkinabes who had been noted or come to security attention and had put into mandatory quarantine have tested positive. These are persons from the sub-region. They are not from Europe or from the East. This tells us the danger of what we should expect if we continue to assist or smuggle persons across our borders. We continue to caution the border communities and transporters to stop these illegal and criminal activities in smuggling people into the country. Touching on the issue of trucks. Yes, the exemption was given for cargo trucks to enter the country. Records are being taken. The records of the drivers and the mates are taken. Their destinations and where they are heading to have been taken. And these are shared with the regional commands for them to do a follow-up, again in conjunction with the health services. What you are noting also today is that as we are seeing people moving out of Accra and other places to avoid the quarantine, to avoid the restriction, we are now seeing also people or foreigners, especially from this region, attempting to leave the country through the border. As we speak, 22 persons, Malians and Nigerians, have been intercepted at the Tatale border, and they are being returned and they are being monitored so that they don't use other routes. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to reiterate that the directive by His Excellency the President is still in force. The borders remain closed, and we urge all citizens and the public to observe closely. We are not applying a humanitarian approach as is being done in the internal restriction. This is combative and robust. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The first brief is different from that of the police and military. This is a combat operation when it comes to the borders. Colleagues, we are coming to the end of our brief for today. The President has just inaugurated the Board of Trustees for the COVID-19 National Trust Fund, which is chaired by former Chief Justice Sophia Kufu. The fund receives contributions and donations from the public to assist in the welfare of the needy and the vulnerable. The other members of the board are Archbishop Justice Sophia Kofi, Mr. Jude Kofi Bakno, Giftia Fenyazi, Mrs. Elsie Ado Awadzi, Dr. Ernest Oforisapon, Dr. Tanko, Mr. Collins Asari will act as secretary to the board. It is my understanding that even here with us this afternoon, we've got some benevolent organizations that also want to contribute to the national cause. First, I'm told Guinness Ghana Limited has a quick contribution to the national cause. Please come up, let us know what it is directly, and then we will take it on behalf of the Republic.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Just being compliant here. We reached out to the Ministry of Information just to get a sense of where we can play our part as a corporation. And I'm happy to say that the company has decided to support the Ministry of Information specifically to disseminate information through our FMCG channels. So we've got over 30,000 channels across country, and we've committed to help you do that. In addition to that, we've dedicated 1,500 packs of Malta Guinness, which is currently out of your office right now, to the frontline officers. So for the frontline health workers as well as the information teams that will be going out, we're hoping that we'll be able to print this to the rest of the team. We know that it's an extraordinary time, and through this period we want to be able to reach out as much as possible. And also just to inform you that Guinness is being active about it. I would say some of the teams have been asked to work from home, so we've instituted a work from home policy already. And just to what you've said, we ensure that it's just critical staff who are required to ensure that our consumers still continue to have the products who will be moving around. So this is just a little contribution that we have as Guinness Ghana.
Guinness Ghana Breweries, we are very grateful for support that you are making available to us. And when you say frontline workers, would include our colleagues from the security agencies as well. We also told a private businessman, spare parts dealer, Mr. Emmanuel Brighto Bing Nyakon. We like to congratulate Kofata. I understand he has a check of about 100,000 cedis, which he wants to make available. Mr. Saribako, you are his representative. Very quickly.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. And this is just in support of the President's call. Actually, he did mention yesterday that it is easy to bring the economic, but it is not easy to bring the people back. So as his widow, Mr. Emmanuel Bright Obinyako, who is a private businessman and also a spare parts dealer, commonly known by his colleagues as Great Kofata at Akokai. He is the managing director of Great Kofata Motors, and he's given to the government of Ghana an amount of 100,000 Ghana cedis support of fighting this pandemic, COVID-19. Sir.
No, come here, you stay here. So I will inform His Excellency the President that already there are donations that are coming. He's donated his 3-month salary, the Vice President has done so, and already getting private citizens and corporate entities who are helping. Akosi Ajiman from Ghana Tourism, please join me in the check, and then you can hand it over on my behalf. Come. As for money matters, you have to be very careful. You can't shake us. Thank you very much.
Also, we have Seth Okran, Yours Car Rental, and he is also the president of the Car Rentals Association. But in his private capacity, he says he's making cars available for the team that will be going out. So we know we will need more vehicles to go out. So the pickups and some of the cars that will be going out, he's offered to provide that support. Yours Car Rental, thank you very much.
Akwesi, thank you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we are coming to the end of our brief. We've already spent a lot of time. This is how far we can go today. The Ministry of Information is rolling out or is establishing or has established a call center, a 24-hour call center, so that during this period, when citizens want to give us feedback, they cannot give us feedback. When citizens want to engage us or chat with us, we can provide more retail information. We'll make that available. I think in the next 24 hours or so, we will make it known and the contact details known. So that also in areas where particularly health persons are saying that they don't have PPE at the very bottom, you can also let us know. Then we feed back into the value chain for attention to be given there. I want to thank you very, very much for your time. As and when we get some more brief, we will do well to let you have it. I want to end by reiterating a key point that the President has made. He says, as much as possible, stay home. As much as possible, stay home. Only the exempt categories, and even for them, the critical staff, are the ones who will be allowed. Timi pamucho seni omampeni kano tinefie. Ajise omwa ya sheda apa om so omutumi pie koko ye bibi ema ye no pe ena ye be ma omkwan. We thank you all. Thank you very much.
I'm Thank you.